from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast Practitioner Brief. I hope you're ready for an unbelievably amazing and packed show, because we've got a lot to talk about, from Kubernetes to LockBit 3.0 to OpenSSL to NIST and Mac OS and Russia. How could we not talk about Russia, right? Because it's everywhere on the news nowadays, especially with the G7. But nonetheless, Russia is sending a clear message across the bow to the world right now. We'll talk about that as well on today's show. So stay tuned. Before we get started on today's show, though, go to cyberhubpodcast.com, catch all the latest this Friday. We're going to talk about American cybersecurity innovation with my good friend, James McQuiggan. In honor of the 4th of July, I wanted to do an episode to celebrate America. So Mr. McQuiggan will be joining me. We'll be doing trivia, not cyber trivia, America trivia, best kind, right? So tune in Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be the best. Can't wait to share with y'all this awesome episode. And we've got some really, really cool factoids for the last year. So tune in then. All right, let's grab our cup of coffee this morning. Before we get into our show, I've got my very nutritious it just drives me, my double espresso. Whatever you're drinking this morning, I hope you enjoy it as much as I love my double espresso coffee cup. Cheers. I always want to be able to finish that during the show. Let's get into over 900,000 Kubernetes instances that have been found exposed online. The 900,000 misconfigured Kubernetes clusters were found exposed on the internet to potentially malicious scans, some with even vulnerable to data exposing cyber attacks. Kubernetes, which is a highly versatile open source container orchestration system for hosting online services and managing containerized workloads via a uniform API interface. It enjoys huge adoption, obviously, in multi-cloud environments and so forth. Researchers conducted an exercise to help locate exposed Kubernetes instances across the internet using similar scanning tools and search queries to those employed by malicious actors. The results showed 900,000 Kubernetes clusters, with 65% of them located in the US, 14% in China, 9% in Germany, while the Netherlands and Ireland accounted for 6% each. Now, here's what I want to go to this. You would look at this and your initial thought would be like, wow, the US really sucks at this. And that's not really the case. A lot of companies host their cloud services in the US. Therefore, you see that they're exposed in the US. It doesn't necessarily make them US, purely US. Of the exposed servers, the top most exposed TCP ports were 443 with just over 1 million instances. And then 10250 counting 231, 200,000 instances. And then port 6443 with 84,400 results. It's essential to underline that all of these exposed clusters are exploitable, but they are there. Cases for definitely some high risk there on your Kubernetes. So you want to tighten up shop, make sure that your Kubernetes is well hardened at this point. Container security, I think, is going to be really, really big going into the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, we talk about API security, get API security, not dismissing it one bit. API security is critical. Container security, even more. Something to keep an eye on. LockBit 3.0 ransomware emerges with a bug bounty program. Yep, we all have bug bounty. Why wouldn't the bad guys do the same? They're offering up to $1 million for vulnerabilities and various other types of information. So LockBit 1.0, LockBit 2.0, ransomware as a service emerged in June of last year. It's been one of the most active ransomware operations, nearly 800 victims being named on their leak site. Now, before they're relaunching their LockBit 3.0, they've launched a bug bounty program saying, help us identify any vulnerabilities that exist within our malware so that we can make more money. So apparently, this in itself is actually very fascinating. The industry is obviously kind of coming back at this. Eric Krohn, who was on the show on Friday, is quoted here as saying, lures like this one are simple and effective, although certainly not unique like so many other phishing attacks. This is using our emotions, specifically the fear of a copyright violation, which many people have heard can be very costly to get a person to make a knee-jerk reaction over this LockBit piece. So quite awesome. OpenSSL to release a security patch for remote memory corruption vulnerability. The latest version of the OpenSSL library has been discovered as susceptible to a remote memory corruption vulnerability on select systems. This has been identified in version 3.0.4, which was released on June 21st of this year and impacts the x64 systems with the AVX512 instruction set, OpenSSL 1.1.1, as well as OpenSSL forks. Boring SSL and Libra SSL are not affected. OpenSSL is a popular cryptographic library, offers open source implementation of the TLS protocol. I don't think that this is a security vulnerability, according to Tomas Marez of the OpenSSL Foundation. Said in a GitHub issue thread, it's a serious bug, making the 3.0.4 release unusable on AVX 512 capable machines. So something to keep in mind there. NIST has published the final version of its guidance to securing Mac Os endpoints and assessing their security. The guidance is derived from the Mac Os Security Compliance Project, an open source effort aimed at creating customized security baselines to meet cybersecurity needs of various organizations. The collaboration between NIST, NASA, the Defense DISA, and the Los Alamos National Laboratory eliminates the need to issue new cybersecurity guidance for each Mac OS release and instead curates the Mac OS guidance and keeps it up to date. The newly released guidance, NIST says, is also meant to introduce the MSCP to broader audiences by offering an overview of the project and its components and by providing details on common use cases. The project's GitHub page provides secure baselines and associated rules that can be used as practical, actionable recommendations for properly configuring and managing Mac OS endpoint device security. With Apple releasing new Mac OS versions each year, the MSCP is intended to be independent of new versions and will be updated with when substantial changes occur. Thus, the organizations will be provided with a consistency of content as well as an accelerated guidance courtesy of baseline efforts. So good to see NIST catching up to that. And finally, Russia's hacking group takes credit for a wide-ranging cyber attack on Lithuania. A hacking group that's been aligned with the Russian government took credit for a large cyber attack on several government institutions in Lithuania on Monday. This is at the heels of the G7 meeting. The country's defense minister and National Cybersecurity Center released a statement saying the hackers had used a denial of service to target the state tax inspector, migration department, and secure national data network, among a host of other entities. Agencies were forced to shut down operations for several hours before service returned. The attack comes days after Lithuania officials refused to allow steel, coal, and other metals to be transported through the country to Kaliningrad due to EU sanctions. Russian officials openly threatened Lithuania after the transit ban took effect on Saturday. Kaliningrad is Russian territory sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania along the Baltic coast, forcing it to rely on rail lines that pass through Lithuania. And so now Russia fired its opening shot. I wonder if Lithuania is next on Putin's list here. But you obviously see that the Russians are still acting. And like I said, they're not really targeting us. They're more concerned about their near environment right now than they are of the U.S. I'm more concerned about China, and I'll continue to say that until it actually resonates. I'm more concerned with China than I am with the Russians at this point. Folks, that's it for our show today. We'll be back with a lot more tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.